feet around the barn.
Hi there, is your family vegan? Maybe you have chosen to raise your kids vegan or eating plant-based, or maybe your child has come to you and said, gosh, I'd really love to now be vegan or eating plant-based, and maybe you don't know what to do, right? And we also thought this was a really important topic in that the holidays are coming. So I know that's really tough because family dynamics are not always so clean-cut where everybody is vegan. Ella, you're lucky in that sense, right?
I'm so lucky. I've converted my whole family at this point, so I don't have to deal with that.
So great. Yeah. So not the case for me. So we'll tackle that as well. Plus, we have a couple friends here in Charlottesville. One who has raised her children vegan, and another who has started a camp here that's all plant-based for kids. And then we have someone over in the UK, close to James, who started some educational materials to have curriculum be inclusive for vegans. So we really do hope that you love all of the information and maybe can identify.
Hope you enjoy.
Hi, welcome. I've got some amazing locals from Charlottesville here with me. On a previous episode, we had Dr. Elsa Spencer. However, we are so lucky to have also her son, Ridgely, with us today. And then we've also invited Scott Williams as well. So as you know, Elsa has a background in nutrition, and she's also a professor. And she has raised Ridgely vegan, her family. So we really want to hear about that. And also, too, as veganism is on the rise and more families are figuring out where they fit in that spectrum, programs are also becoming available. And so that's why we also have Scott here today, as he has started a camp that started out as a plant-based camp or vegan camp. So, of course, we want to hear from Scott as well. But I think maybe where we want to start is, first and foremost, why you chose to go vegan and maybe how many years ago that was. Why don't we start there so that everybody gets to know you a little bit. Do you want to start first, Elsa?
Sure. Let's see. I went vegan in, so many years ago. Early 93. Mm-hmm. So you guys can do the math. 20 something years. And 28 years. And did you say why?
Uh-huh, and
so
why?
I had already been a vegetarian for 4 years, and I just figured out at that age, I was like 30. No, I'm just kidding. I think I was 18. So I figured out that the animals that I thought I was sparing from being vegetarian, so I wasn't eating chickens, pigs, cows that were killed for meat, but I was eating their products, and then I realized, those same animals that are raised for the products are then being killed earlier than they would naturally die, and they're also living a very different life than they could be living on a sanctuary, say.
Yes.
And so I thought, well, if I'm trying to spare the animals by not eating them, I really need to not eat their products. So it just was it was like an education that I came into about what happens to egg-laying hens and what happens to cows that have their milk taken for making dairy products. So I decided to just go vegan at that point. And there were other factors. I was studying environmental science, and so there were other pieces to it, social justice pieces, but the driving factor was, I think, just the realization that it was like the same chain of animal exploitation.
Wow. Okay. And how about for you, Scott?
I've been vegan 11 years, and it all started for me fittingly for where we are right now. I met a pig, as funny as that sounds. I met a pig, and the pig was super cool and chill. It was like a dog. It was really smart, and I'm like, and then I just made the connection. I can't believe I'm eating pig products. So I stopped eating pigs at that point, and then I just wanted to know more information. I kept researching and learning more about vegetarianism and veganism, and I've always loved animals. Grew up in my mother's a very loving and compassionate soul, so I think if I would have had a vegan role model growing up, I would have done so a long time ago. I remember I grew up in West Virginia. Hunting's really big there, and I was always super turned off by that. I couldn't stand that. But yeah, once I met the pig, and then I started watching documentaries, and I heard I watched one, and they mentioned humane slaughter, and they kind of, they humanely slaughtered. But humanely, so that's a good way to teach for our teachers to teach oxymorons.
Right.
And then I was at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm done. So I went vegetarian right then, and then just slowly phased out all animal products whatsoever. So it really worked well for me because I started off pig, red meat, white meat, fish, and then just went, got rid of all the dairy products. So I think that's what I try to share that with everybody. That was the most effective way for me to go vegan. And I haven't looked back since.
And how many years has that been now?
11
years. Oh, okay.
Year of vegetarianism, and then 11 years after. Vegan.
Sure. Yeah, actually very similar for me as well, but not from eating a pig. So I'm really happy to hear that. That one's awesome. However, when you brought up about having that role model, so Elsa, you for your children, right? And so then originally, how old are you?
11.
11 years old. So, and you've been vegan your whole 11 years? Okay, very nice.
Same as Scott.
That's right, same as Scott.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Great. And do you know a lot of other people who are your age who are vegan?
Or so close to your age?
Maybe some friends?
What about
Probably, I just can't think of anyone.
Ruby and Jonas?
Yeah, but they're not really friends. They're just like acquaintances.
Okay, so a couple of people you might know. Okay, gotcha. And so then, Elsa, how did you approach that, I guess, with your children? You knew you were, and so it just became something that you did, and then you brought them up in that way. And did they come to you with questions? And at what point did explanations occur?
Right.
And so forth. We'd love to hear about that journey.
So my children were little. We lived on a farm out in Louisa. So up until Ridgely was 2.5, and my older son, it was until he was 8 or 8.5. So I have a child who's almost 17. He'll be 17 next month, and he has also been raised vegan. So I didn't have to introduce it to them. I've just raised them vegan. I was pregnant vegan, and I did have to have discussions with Dad about raising the kids vegan. So there's that. But in terms of the children, they've just been raised vegan. We did, before with like in part of the discussions with Dad about whether to raise vegan or not, we did talk about, is there an age at which they could choose not to be vegan if they wanted to make that choice, because he is not vegan.
Yes.
So we differed on the age. I believe your dad said when you were 8 you could choose, and I think I said 12. So it's kind of between them.
Approaching the age of 12 now. Okay.
We are approaching. Well, literally, he just turned 11.
Oh, he did. Okay.
So and I've founded other mixed vegan parents. I don't know what you call it, mixed families.
Yes.
In a way, that the age might vary at which they think that a child is able to make that decision. My older son, we thought 12 was good, and we lived on a farm, right? So it was a working farm. There were cows. It was not a vegan farm. And so they slaughtered. In fact, his dad was the meat processing manager, so he actually shot the cows and butchered them.
Wow.
So it was like a really mixed.
Wow.
Mixed family. Yeah, I know. It's an interesting story, but anyway. So we had lots of discussions about all of that. So I thought that if my older son wanted to eat cows or chickens or whatever, he would just need to watch a slaughter, because there were slaughters happening there. The chickens were killed on site, the cows were killed on site.
Wow.
The dairy products were made on site and whatnot. So he never expressed interest in that.
I'm seeing it.
Well, in eating.
In eating.
He never expressed either
animal.
one. So he never expressed interest in eating the animals. And I don't think that I made it clear to him beforehand that he would need to then witness it and sort of see what it's like and see what the real cost is of eating animals.
Sure.
So I don't think he was discouraged from that idea. Because I didn't attach that consequence to the choice. It was just, let us know if you're interested in eating it, and he never expressed that interest. And Ridgely hasn't expressed one yet. Feel free to pipe up.
Yeah. Do you ever wonder what it's like? Kinda. to have, say, chicken or a steak or anything like that?
Not really.
Not really?
I mean,
Okay.
I've accidentally had some.
That happened to me once too. I think I ordered something at the restaurant and they brought me the wrong thing.
Yeah, it was like a burrito. It was supposed to have beans, but it had beef.
It had beef, right.
I was like, that tastes just like not beans.
What'd you do? You weren't with me, I don't think.
No, it's just like Ezra and
Mhm.
Sammy and Zadok.
What did you
We
do?
just ordered another one and then it had beans. And that was all cool.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
At least they didn't put like cheese or sour cream or anything on it. It was pretty
Right.
easy.
And what are your favorite foods, Ridgely?
I don't know.
Well, just anything's you like.
Because when it,
Pie's
so
pretty good.
is what? I'm sorry?
Pie.
Pizza
we
pie?
were making pie right before we came
Ah.
because
haven't eaten it
pie
yet,
days
but I
tomorrow,
just
so
smelled
we
it,
were making
so.
pumpkin pie.
Oh,
And I
okay.
taste tested a bit at the Aquafaba and that was good.
Wow.
In case
See,
anyone doesn't
that's-
know what Aquafaba
yeah.
is, do you want to tell them?
I don't really know. It's like chickpea stuff.
That's
You
so
put sugar
cool.
in it.
The liquid that comes off of beans has a lot of starch.
Right.
And it can be whipped with a little
Yes.
sugar and vanilla, powdered sugar usually to make it finer. And so you can make whipped cream basically. So we made
Yes.
whipped cream that's like protein rich and you put it on the pie. So originally did all the whipping.
That's amazing. Do you help in the kitchen a lot, Ridgely? Do you like, or you just like to do the eating?
Here, yeah, but my dad sometimes will do stuff
Right.
like,
But you consistently help here.
yeah, most of the time. Well, I
That's
help less
great.
now that we have a dishwasher. It used to be you have to wash the dishes, but now it's just, you load the dishwasher and that's about it.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I love the dishwasher too.
We just got one, so
Very nice.
yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm sure you like other foods besides pie. What
I
about
don't
for
know,
dinner or
it's the
lunch?
first one that came to mind.
Yeah, because I think, this is one that I myself, and I would love to hear about how you handle it in the camp too, because for me, I have a stepson, and actually later in this episode, I'll have my family on as well, and we'll talk about how we handle, dietary needs in the family. So I'm always looking for, my stepson's name is Alex, what he would like to eat. And he's actually really great about trying his broccoli and vegetables and things like that. So he'll do that. But I absolutely throw in vegan chicken nuggets, and I absolutely throw in all those things to make it maybe tastier, kind of,
I had vegan chicken nuggets this morning.
Did you? Okay.
And also last night.
Last night.
But I was just gonna say, I was gonna volunteer for my older son who is not here, but
Yes.
he loves, and it was an idea he got from Scott's camp.
Oh, okay.
So he eats several mornings a week. He will eat a healthy banana split for breakfast.
Yeah, it's just banana split
So-
and then like everything.
Well, tell tell people what that means, because some people
banana
think
split,
whipped
like
cream
a
and
lot of peanut butter.
Oh, okay.
Like a disgusting amount of peanut butter.
Okay.
keep going.
And
What
then
else?
some dried fruit and then maybe like an almond or two.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I think he often puts oats or granola
Not usually, actually.
on there.
And this recipe came from Camp for Real. Oh, okay. We got to hear about this. So,
It is a popular item. in our house.
Yes. Okay, so tell us about Camp for Real and how you developed all these recipes and such. We want to hear about it all.
Well, I started Camp for Real. I was actually trying to make a positive change with our school lunch program, both at the local level at my school, which my cafeteria manager, she was amazing, but at the county level too. So I would
Yes.
have meetings with them, and it was a bureaucratic nightmare for me, just trying to get any type of changes into the program. So it just inspired me to go on and start my own business. I was like, if I can't help them, the county offer healthier choices for
Yes.
the kids, then I'm going to start my own camp. And I know if I give them healthy options, they're going to eat them and they're going to love it. And from the first year we did a camp in 2011, I think we did 3 camps, probably had 120 kids in all 3. And just try to be really creative, not just giving them food. We have fruit and veggie art day, as Elsa knows. We give them a lot of choices. There's no pressure. I don't pressure them. I try to model. I'll go up because I love the food. I mean, food's being made for me all week long, so I'm super excited. So I'm going up and sampling the food as we're going along. So if the kids have a good relationship with me, they see me doing it, they're more likely to maybe take a leap and try something new. We're also, I know who my eaters are. And I know who the more we put the more adventurous and popular kids up there. So if it's an older kid that's 4th or 5th grade that the kids look up to, we'll always send him or her up first and make a big deal about getting a superhero. Because superheroes, if you get every ingredient on. So if we're doing trail mix. And there's 10 choices, you put all 10 in the bag, that's a superhero. Who's your superhero? You know, Iron Man, I'm Wonder Woman. You know, so just try to make it fun and novel.
Exactly.
And again, low pressure. Like we love giving the kids choices. I make that a huge deal. Whether it's when we play our physical activities. If you want to keep score, cool. If you want to just play and have fun, cool. If you want to call me Mr. Williams, that's my name, that's fine. My nickname is Mr. Dubs, you can call me that. Some of the kids call me, I say my favorite food in the world is watermelon. So I was like, if you want to call me Mr. Watermelon, you can. So I had kids call me Coach Watermelon yesterday in my outdoor PE class. So yeah, we just try to make it fun and novel, and we'll do things like, you know, healthy desserts. We don't, it's really tricky to the kids how they internalize things. Like when I first started talking about my veganism, in school, a lot of the kids, I get reports back from the parents saying, my kid said we're not healthy unless we're vegan. I was like, whoa, I didn't say that whatsoever. So it's really tricky. Want to be sure that we're just encouraging the kids and making it as fun as possible. So we're not trying anything that's too crazy. I mean, what kid doesn't like trail mix? One of our Sun Butter Rainbow Wraps is one of the popular snacks we do, or lunch. It's just a tortilla and we put sun butter on it, allergy friendly.
Sure.
And then they go through, they get strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, shredded coconut, you know, so we give them a bunch of choices. So whatever you want to make, you know, and choices are fun. Nobody wants to just have a tray handed to them and say you have to eat this. So,
and that's so empowering for the child too. I get to pick, right? And it's a healthy choice. That's so great.
We totally steal that idea. So when I think, oh, we have these bananas and they're at the right stage, often my son will get up late because he's almost 17, and I'll just put out an array. Right? We have 3 kinds of cereal. It's not like boxed cereal, but we have, you know, puffed rice or whatever, and oats and hemp seeds and flax seeds and different nut butters because we don't have allergies to contend with. We have tahini, and I'll just put out a bunch of stuff on, and then he just makes his own. That's why I don't know what he puts on it, because he chooses. Bless you. And so we've totally used that model.
So great.
Right?
Yeah. Love that idea.
Yeah, and I mean, just when we do the salad bar, we'll do a salad bar day, we'll do a noodle bar. You can go up there, it's just so aesthetically pleasing. There's colors everywhere. Who doesn't? I still love, if I see a bunch of colors, I'm just amazed.
Right.
You know, take pictures of the kids, and you know, just they're super proud of their creations, even if it's just going through the line, and you know, they know they're doing something good for their bodies by eating all these plant-based foods, and it's really tricky too. We don't really tackle the ethical dilemma. When the kids ask me about my veganism, I love it because it kind of cues me to talk. Well, I love animals, and I just don't want to hurt animals, and I think this is the healthiest way to eat. And you know, you would have to have that discussion with your parents because it's a tricky line to toe. You never want to overstep the boundaries, but the kids, they love everything, and they go home, and one of the most rewarding things is they go home and they'll make these foods. So we had programming last month, and one of the kids went home and made the snack for dinner for the whole family. And you know, spread sun butter on a wrap. Put some toppings on it, fold it up. Anybody can do that. In kindergarten, first graders, they're doing it. And you know, it's just everything is Camp for Real is real fun, real food, real active, real awesome. So everything's got to be real fun.
Yes.
So if you can kind of frame it to where, like, we don't say water, we call it Dubs. That's why they call me. My nickname is Dubs. The last name starts with a W. But we're like, throw your Dubs up because water's the best drink in the world. So we kind of just finding ways to you know, hit that brain loves novelty. So if I'm just saying, yeah, water's the best drink in the world, but if we dress it up, and in our nutrition games we play, they're always trying to be water at the end, and they get to shout Dubs at the end and come in the middle. Well, pre-COVID, we come in the middle and do a Dubs dance party. They're just jumping up, yelling Dubs, Dubs. So just silly things like we love having fun.
Exactly.
And why not take that into the snacks and into the lunches that we have too.
And speaking of novelty and fun, I think I had heard, because I know that my stepson has a friend who's already going to Camp for Real Landon. Anyway, that there was something about you were doing a lesson on sugar, and they were throwing boxes or something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they loved that one.
Yeah, we call
Been to
that.
camp for real too. of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, you like check the nutrition facts.
Uh-huh.
If you get a certain number of strikes, you throw it at the wall, and if you don't, you put it in a nice pile.
And did you throw boxes on the wall?
Oh, yeah, it was
Yeah, it was fun.
It was just madness.
Yes.
And what would a cereal get a strike for?
Right.
Or was it cereal?
Yeah, cereal.
cereal.
It was cereal, other stuff.
What would it get a strike for? Can you remember an example?
I think if it had any trans fat that was
Uh-huh.
out, if it had a certain number of sugar that was
Sugar.
one strike,
Mm-hmm.
certain number of something or other. I can't remember right now.
Yeah.
There were actually kind of a lot of things.
And this is 3 years ago, maybe. So we're
Yeah.
pulling from the recesses, but he remembers a few key things.
That's
Well,
so
that was
fantastic.
basically it, I think.
So
Yeah,
fantastic.
the cereals are a very common food found in probably every household. So when I was a teacher, I'd have the kids bring in their cereal boxes, and no judgment, whatever, healthy cereal, not whatever. And we brand it. We make it. Now we call it label detectives. So now the detectives trying to figure out, because the companies, they're really good at hiding information.
Right.
And so we try to keep it simple, and this is a camp buddy activity too, so we always pair a younger camper with an older camper just for leadership and community purposes. But that's always a camp buddy activity, and the kids will go and they'll identify the sugar content. So if sugar is, we call it double-digit danger, so alliteration, novelty.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
if it's double digits or anywhere close, like 8, 9, you get to sound the alarm.
Oh.
So that's new, Ridge. You haven't seen that. So they're really loud, and the kids, and if they come show one of the teachers that, hey, this is double-digit danger, or it has a artificial color in it.
Oh, yeah.
Artificial
yeah,
colors are
remember
very
that.
easy to identify. It's just a color and a number. So even a lot of my kindergartners and first graders can do that. Or if they find, we delve a little bit deeper too, talking about preservatives. That's a little bit more challenging, but some of those kids are literally sponges, so I try to teach them as much as possible.
Sure.
And also checking out the fiber content. But if they find something that has, anytime it's got artificial ingredient, so Camp for real food. We don't want any artificial ingredients whatsoever when we serve the kids. They come show one of the teachers. Yep, you found it, label detective, and then they get to go chuck it against the wall. And we've got a bunch of beat up Fruit Loops and Frosted Flakes, and all these popular cereals are really beat up because they've been chucked against the wall so many times.
Wow. But what a great learning experience, right? And to make it fun. That's amazing. And so also I understood that you consulted with Elsa, right? When you were looking into the nutritional parts of your program. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
That's
for years.
so good.
We
Yes.
still do a little bit.
My meeting Elsa's story is awesome. I
It is a good story.
went to one vegan meetup my whole life, and I was like, I'm finding the person who's going to do my food.
Right.
Because it was the first year after I'd done it, and we did all the food the first year. Like I went to the grocery store every day before camp, every night before camp, and then my colleague and I, we prepped the food in the morning.
Wow.
And it was very stressful. So that was the first hire I made, and I said I'm going to meet my food person at this vegan meetup. And that's when I met Elsa.
And it was just us, right?
Oh yeah. Well, no, there were more
There were a
people,
couple other-
but I picked
You're
you
right.
out pretty quick. Yeah. So. And we talked, and we were right on the same wave. I had to have a vegan. It was just easier that way.
Indeed.
We've had other non-vegans working for us, and they're very respectful and very knowledgeable. But yeah, I met her, and we talked, and we brainstormed, and we meet at my favorite time to meet with her is at the end of camps. Like when we kind of reflect and talk about different things, and that's how our menu has kind of expanded throughout the years. Where we used to just do fruit kebabs and the wraps and fruit and veg, and now we're doing noodle bowls and
we have
salad bars,
vegan yogurt parfaits.
Yeah, she takes it.
Yeah, you like
kids
that
like
one.
that.
Oh, it's so good.
So I come up with some, but mostly, I'm Scott's friends. I mean, people just have ideas, or we read about it. I think you sent me like, oh, hey, there was this cool, what do you think about this rainbow wrap up with hummus? And I was like, sure, I can make that. I can get all the stuff for that, and that'd be fun. And so yeah, just you get an idea. You see a picture on Pinterest, and and it's not just games. Like the food at the camp it's reflective of what Scott's teaching, which I have to say is sometimes challenging to shop for. Like getting salsa that doesn't have preservatives.
Oh,
right. Getting guacamole without preservatives, that sort of thing. So we really buy the food
it's
that.
insane. I go with her sometimes. It's crazy. craziness.
And you help her look at the nutrition labels?
Oh yeah.
That's so
Oh,
good.
my kids are
Well, yeah, because mom
super-
can't read like tiny print.
You're helping her read it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so
And
good.
the kids are super label readers, partly from Scott's camp,
Right.
and I have definitely benefited from them attending, the camps, and because sometimes I'll miss something, and
Or like she's looking through a giant list of ingredients. She's like, whew. And I'm like, how about you just look at the contains?
Right,
For
for
the
that-
big letters.
Uh-huh.
It shows everything that's in allergens.
Okay, you know where to find it. That's awesome.
it's really great. Actually, it's a
Yes.
life skill. I tell
That's
you
the
what.
kind I
It
did
is.
before
It's-
hamburgers.
it's one of-
Absolutely,
yeah, it's one of my
especially as a
favorite-
vegan. Yes.
Yeah, one of my favorite days is a day or two after we do label detectives, and
Uh-huh.
then I'll start hearing back from parents like, "Hey, we went through our cupboard, threw out half the food, so they know how to identify artificial ingredients. So thank you." And I'm like, "Is that a
Real thank you.
is that a real
Right,
thank you?
right.
Is that a little
Or is that a
condescending?"
sarcastic or
Yeah,
or
so, it's
sarcastic
one of my favorite days for sure.
That's amazing. Wow. And so, okay, so you said you started off with like 100 kids or something like that. Where are you now with the camp? How many?
Well, last summer before the pandemic, we were hoping for 500 to 600 kids.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
the way we work, we're a nomadic camp, so we'll roll all around the county, just to different schools. And
Uh-huh.
when we come to that school, the community knows about it. I work with the PE teacher there, ideally, and they're good at spreading the word, and it's like the place to be that week. And we
Yes.
always it's been really successful. But last year, ACPS, Albemarle County Public Schools, closed their doors, and probably this summer too. So that's hurt our numbers a little bit. But we've got partnerships with Blue Ridge School, and this year Miller School is opening up as well.
Okay.
So those are our outdoor adventure camps where we do still the food never changes. We're always the
Right.
food is a focal point, but our activities change. It's more outdoors. We're doing more swimming, hiking, biking, stand-up paddleboarding, because we have a swimming pool and a lake and all these beautiful trails, that we don't have at the public schools. So it's like two different
Right.
camp experiences. It's like
Uh-huh.
PE all day in the public schools, but then we go outdoor adventure when we
Sure.
go to the private schools. But yeah, we're hoping, I would say hoping 300, 400 kids this summer. That
Okay.
would be a good number. And once we get back to any type of normalcy, we're hoping to be around 600, 700.
That's fantastic. Wow. So good. Wow. So then, how about you, Ridgely? Do you have any advice for other kids who think, is vegan food tasty or not? Do you have any advice for them? Should they just try it and see, or what do you think?
What about just like accidentally vegan stuff, like fruit, dried
Yeah.
fruit, nut
Right.
butters?
That's the good stuff, huh? Yeah.
Stuff people like.
Stuff people like.
Or
yeah.
what about, like, I was just thinking about your birthday party.
What about it?
Well, what did we have? Do you remember?
We had cake
Uh-huh.
and hot cocoa.
Uh-huh.
Did the kids know it was vegan cake even?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we said something.
Uh-huh.
But I heard from one of the parents that one of the kids said it was the best chocolate cake they'd had.
Uh-huh.
Not qualified as vegan,
Griffin
just
told me that.
Griffin,
Yes,
right?
okay.
Best chocolate cake. And
He told me
so,
that to my face. Actually.
oh, he told you that?
Like not like his mom telling you telling me. But
Oh.
like he was just like, oh yeah, that's the best chocolate cake.
Okay.
And this is not a child who eats a lot of vegan. I don't know that he eats much vegan food at home, but
Right.
He does have some pretty good stuff though.
Mm-hmm.
so I guess what I was just saying is that you kids can eat pretty much anything they would eat in a non-vegan way. They could just eat the vegan version of
Right.
it if their parents are, savvy and willing to experiment and either buy something they've never bought or make something they've never made, right? So
That's right.
so all of the usual, like vegan chicken nuggets. It's not a staple of my children's diet, but we throw it in sometimes with last night with baked potatoes and some barbecued tofu and
Right.
some spaghetti squash.
Uh-huh.
Kind of rounded it out and made it kind of a fun meal, right? But
spaghetti
but yeah, chocolate cake, just a vegan version of it,
Sure.
right? Pumpkin pie, what we're having for Pie Day. Just,
Uh-huh.
got flax and
Right.
Aquafaba whipped cream, but other than that, it's pumpkin pie. So
Sure.
right, there's dried fruit and nut butters. That's everyone can like those. Like you like the wrap ups, right? I mean, that's it's vegan, but it's just fun. It's just fun and tasty food for any kid.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah. Wow. So I think really, in all honesty, here we're talking about making it fun as the name of the game, right? And then I guess some of the challenges are fighting some, and maybe I shouldn't say fighting, but working with some systems that have been in place historically that are not maybe wanting to change right away. But it sounds more and more like people are starting to open up their minds more, especially if their kids come home and go, hey, let's try this, right? And also we have, as you all know, we've mentioned we have another board member who's in the UK, and there's a lot of work going on over there as well. Veganism is on the rise there too. Recently, the UK has acknowledged veganism as an ideology, and their ideologies there are protected as like religions are protected. And so more and more of the vegans that are there in schools are starting to kind of wonder, well, great, can we have some more healthy options for food and such, and how does that happen? How can the schools be a bit more inclusive in the way that they teach about, say, animals and biology and various things? So we will be also hearing from a lovely, lovely woman, Ruth Jenkins in the UK, who has started a bunch of work too around vegan inclusive curriculum. So thank you so much, Scott, Elsa, and Ridgely, for joining us. I hope that we gave you all some ideas for how you might be able to include kids in, or if maybe you're a parent and you want to approach that with your child. Or if your child comes to you and says, hey, let's start to eat this, vegan food, or try this option. So what happens then? We've been talking a lot about ways of being creative and innovative, and how it's really great and impactful for kids. But what if then a child comes home and says, hey, let's have some sun butter and so forth, and the parents are going, what is that? I'm not so sure. And they have already culturally some ideas of what's healthy and what's not, and maybe they push back then. Have you all found that, right? Elsa, what would you say maybe to parents who are thinking nutritionally, is this okay for me, right, and my child?
Sure. So I often use my own family as an example, and I say, okay, I teach nutrition. I learned about nutrition from a health perspective, and then there are all these other reasons maybe that your child is interested in. Maybe your kids are inspired because they met a pig, and they don't want to eat pigs, or maybe they just heard that this thing was good. But if I didn't think that this was the healthiest, safest diet for my children, and that they were going to be, if I didn't feel assured that my children were going to be getting the sufficient nutrients, I wouldn't feed it to them. I would just advocate moving towards that for everybody, but I wouldn't personally choose that for my family. But I do choose it for my family, right? So, and so I guess that's where I start. And then, I think a common concern is protein, and I think that there's just been such massive marketing for decades. I mean, since I was a kid at least, and probably before, right? The Beef Board and the Cattlemen's Association, they have a lot of advertising dollars, a lot of influence over nutrition policy, and there's there's other organizations as well, of course. But I think that we have come up, and so many parents then have grown up hearing and thinking and believing that we need animal products to get protein, we need animal products to get calcium. Right. And it's just not really true. I mean, pregnant people need more protein than even somebody at the gym, and I have gone through several pregnancies fully vegan, with very few supplements, actually, honestly. I mean, I eat well and I know what to choose, so there's that. So maybe that we throw in a few supplements, but it's certainly not an issue in terms of protein needs. Right, I'm growing an extra human and I need a lot extra protein, and I never thought about protein. I literally never counted grams. I never have for my children either. And they're growing on track and outgrowing their genetic predictions even. So I don't worry about protein, and there's not enough time to go into all of that. But plants are what provides the animals the protein that they then provide diets, right? Like animals eat plants. The original source of all protein is the plants. And Calcium, right? Dairy products do have calcium. They definitely do, and they have protein. Those are facts. And when you eat less calcium, your body will actually absorb more of the calcium that's coming in from your diet. So if you're just eating a slightly lesser amount, you'll actually absorb more of the calcium from the greens or calcium fortified orange juice. Right? We have that every day. We get it with pulp, so there's some fiber, right? Because normally I don't espouse juice. It's not really a whole food.
And calcium.
Right, but it has the fiber and it has the calcium. Or fortified foods. The thing is we eat a lot of fortified foods and enriched foods in the American, like omnivores eat a lot of them too.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
so cow milk has vitamin D added to it.
Right.
And white flour has folic acid added to it. Right, and so some vegan meat products and milks will have calcium added to them, and that's it's just part of our food supplies to eat these fortified foods. So having products added so that we are getting our adequate nutrition.
Sure.
I think the only, if you're raising a baby, I mean, that would be a whole nother show, I guess.
Sure.
So there are special considerations for 0 to 2 years old. You just try not to give them too much fiber. So a diet that's healthy for us sitting here would not be great for a 1-year-old. Like a healthy, high fiber type of vegan diet, that's going to be a little too much fiber for a tiny baby. But apart from considerations like that, and especially, a lower fat vegan diet wouldn't be a great choice for a young child, like under 5. So there's things like that, and there's lots of good resources. The Vegetarian Resource Group has information for if your teenager wants to go vegetarian or vegan, if your child is interested in vegetarianism. Here are some resources and veganhealth.org from Why Vegan, I believe they have a lot of good research on vegetarian and vegan children. Nutritionfacts.org, and so I can send you, links that I would trust.
Great.
There's the New Vegetarian Baby. It's a book that I used, and they have several versions of that. So special considerations for babies, which is true for omnivorous babies too, like that babies have special nutritional needs, and so do young children. So there are some special considerations. But really, once you get past 5 years old, once you're at the age to go to camp or go to school, really a vegan diet's going to be the best choice in terms of, kids at 10 years old in America can show fatty streaks like in their arteries, even as young as 10. So heart disease and diabetes risk can start in childhood and is starting to show up in childhood. And so it's not too early at 5 years old to, I'm just saying once you get to 5 years old, everything that's good for us is good for them. So the same recommendations that we're hearing to lower our risk of chronic diseases, that's going to be good for kids too.
Sure.
Including being active, of course.
Of
right?
course,
so,
yes.
But from a food perspective, you're good after 5.
Right,
in terms
sure.
of no special considerations.
And then this kind of information, Scott, do parents come to you for in the camp saying, are you sure this is really nutritionally sound or not? Do they ever have those questions for you and challenges?
Not often. Our families are very supportive and they're very thankful for us. And I do get it every once in a while, the protein question. And my response is not as scientific. I say, does it look like I'm getting enough protein? And then sometimes I'll throw in a little flex for them if they're that kind of kid that's going to react to that positively. So, yeah, anything scientific, I defer to Elsa. I'm like, hey, I'm doing just fine after 11 years. So I think that speaks volumes too.
Sure. Because, so my husband is Cuban. I've married a Cuban, right? And we were down in Miami for many, many years. So in the Latin culture, I mean, some people, when they hear you're vegan, they literally feel like you're committing child abuse if you do not feed your child meat. I mean, it's so ingrained, in them culturally. So I do give a lot of credit to actually my in-laws. I mean, they drink coconut milk, oat milk, flax milk and such now. I mean, they're really open to hearing about it, which I give them so much credit because culturally I do feel like, there's just been a long time of doing things the way that they've been doing things, So anyhow, I really, really appreciate you all sharing all of your experiences.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, hello everyone. James here, your English Hogs and Kisses board member. I'm here with Ruth from Vegan Inclusive Education, which is something and a fantastic initiative that Ruth has started, which we're going to talk all about. But first, Ruth, we'd love to know what your mission is. if you wouldn't
Okay,
mind.
so vegan inclusive education exists to support schools to understand how to support their vegan students.
Yeah, it's very simple. That's all it is. Yeah, because obviously there's a lot of people who may be aware now of the word vegan, but not necessarily really understand what it means. And I've had people ask me whether I can still eat fish and all that kind of thing. So for vegan kids going to a school where no one else is vegan, it must be really useful for them.
Yeah, I think it can feel really isolating when you turn up at school, because often you will be the only vegan in school, and there are so many changes or little shifts that you're requiring of the school that it can be easy to feel like you're that annoying person, and to worry that your teachers will be frustrated, when you're trying to build all those relationships early on.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So how did it all get started? How did it come about?
So I have a son, and he started school, and I've been vegan for a really long time, but I was really confronted by how society normalises non-veganism at every layer in school. So when I was touring schools, I asked whether they would be able to provide a vegan lunch, and was told that they didn't. And I was like, well, would you be able to? And was told no. I was okay, it's not very good. I was like, fine, my son will enjoy a packed lunch, that's not a problem. But we got there, and the songs they sang, I don't know if you have this in America, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Once I Caught a Fish Alive.
Oh yeah.
And fish were one of my son's favourite creatures, and you're 5, it's really traumatic to hear that. And you see cartoons of kids fishing, and the books you're sent home with are about eating and cooking meat. And it's really embedded, and it's really hard to explain to a teacher how challenging all those kind of little layers are. And I found it challenging as a parent, because although I could explain it, I was desperate to make school nice for my son. I didn't want to upset the teacher and destabilise their relationship. So I set up vegan inclusive education as a way to separate slightly the parent's relationship from the teacher, with a way of educating about veganism. So the campaign works so that we can send out the pack. I'm going to brandish the pack. To help teachers understand why it's important to be vegan inclusive and what easy steps you can take to do it. And it's a way of feeling that there's a bit of an independent view than a parent. It's not you as an individual parent having to be that parent.
Right. Do you find that the teachers then become a bit more sort of vegan aware and come round to it a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it can really help. I think it's just a stage, and it doesn't take away from the fact that you'll want to relate to them as a parent and help, but it's a way of saying, actually, here's some information in a pack, because I found that teachers wanted to say to me, just pop in and talk to me at the end of the day if there's an issue. And you're like, actually, this is bigger than that. If you were trying to create awareness about a religion or something different, you wouldn't expect that somebody could just explain it to you in a sentence at the end of the school day. There's more to learn. Yeah.
Sure. Great. So could you tell us how it works? How do schools get involved, or can parents of that particular student, get that school involved? How does it?
So it's parent and child driven. So there's a website. It's VI for Vegan Inclusive and education.org.uk, and you'll find a map there. And I love this map because I'm a geography student, by background. So you can tag your school through Google Maps on the map, and that triggers an alert for me to send a pack out to the school. And it comes with a letter explaining what veganism is, why it's important. Because in the UK, ethical veganism is now recognised as a protected belief under the Equality Act 2010. So it's really important schools understand that, because they need to make sure they don't breach their public sector equality duty by not respecting vegan pupils. But so it triggers an alert. I'll send a pack to the school, and it's a way of supporting the school to begin to learn. So it talks about school policies they can change, making sure they've got a decent anti-bullying policy, because the levels of teasing and bullying of vegan pupils are really alarmingly high. And I can talk to you about a bit of research I've done on that if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
So after I set up the campaign, I did a survey and we had 252 vegan pupils respond. And they were 72% likely to have been teased for their vegan beliefs at school and 42% likely to have been bullied for their vegan beliefs in a school environment. And the really shocking thing is that in 1 in 4 cases of both teasing and bullying, it was school teachers and other school staff who were the perpetrators of those acts.
Wow.
And
Okay.
fewer than 1 in 4 pupils said that when they alerted the school to them, the school was swift and effective to respond. So I think it's a really important part of schools embedding that veganism is just as an important protected belief as any religion. Like my son goes to a really diverse school and they're brilliant about educating in lots of different ways. But ethical veganism isn't on the radar with that education. And in the UK, we've got more than 1% of people now being vegan, which is higher than people who identify as Jewish or Sikh or Buddhist in the UK. But my son will learn about all of those religions, and that's really important. But he won't be taught about that in his school. And schools aren't very good about respecting that element of diversity in things like their bullying policies. And if they don't educate their teachers, I think they fall victim to the fact that lots of people still think bullying, like teasing for veganism, is an okay thing to do. It's like it's not a part of your kind of circle of compassion. It's not been brought into that space. So I think it's really important that teachers get alerted to that and they can think strategically about how they bring it back in.
Right. So so do the teachers get their education from the parent and the pupil, or is this, can they, do they learn from a fantastic brochure?
So
or?
there's quite a lot in the pack. The pack was heavily inspired by the work of an amazing lady called Laura Chepner, who wrote literally the book on vegan inclusive education called Vegucated.
Okay.
And so that is a brilliant guide. You can buy it online and gift it to your school. And it's really in-depth that helps teachers understand the layers of kind of emotion that some of their teaching will elicit. So in the letter we send with the pack, we talk about the fact that often in schools at the moment, people will be taught that they need cow's milk, for good, strong, healthy bones. And they won't unpick that to calcium. So we discussed that if you're a vegan pupil, you probably know that, cows are kept in captivity to be milked, that their calves are taken from them, that they're killed at a young age. And you probably also know that milk isn't necessarily healthy and that there are lots of other calcium sources. So you've kind of got layers of trauma unfurling in you as your trusted teacher is telling you this, and you're wondering why they don't kind of know better and why it feels like they're being mean when the teacher doesn't think they're being mean at all. Until you've unpacked that for somebody who's non-vegan, you can't imagine that that's what your pupil would be thinking.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's still plenty of people in this country, at least, who don't know half of the animal agriculture practices and the motivations for going vegan from an ethical point of view.
So like Laura's book does a brilliant job of helping you through that, like as a non-vegan, to understand where people are coming from, but she also offers consultancy services, so schools can register for some training and she can upskill everybody so that they all understand how to look after their vegan pupils well.
Ah, wow, that's amazing. So I had a look on the website and saw the map that Ruth was talking about earlier with every school that has at least one vegan pupil, at least that has registered for vegan inclusive education, and there's a lot of schools on there, lots of pins on the map. So how many schools are involved at the moment?
So we've got over 1,300 schools and nurseries and colleges registered now. And this is November we're filming, so it's been a year since we launched. So this is year 1. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
in 1 year, that's amazing.
So it's really encouraging, but I think the map for me is joyous because you can feel really isolated as a vegan still. We're only 1 in 100. So the map shows vegan kids who might be feeling like they are the only one and they are so alone. like, look, wow, we're huge.
Yeah.
This is a movement. This is a really growing area. And I think it's so exciting, especially like we're filming this during like COP26, and the environmental aspect of this, and seeing Greta Thunberg, you know, as a leading vegan for the environment, you know, young person, is really exciting. And I think it's an area of growth, and schools are going to get help to catch up.
Yes, well, I mean, if schools are interested in their carbon footprint, then that's a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think people underestimate how important school meals are for schools trying to become more environmentally sound. Because energy might be their biggest carbon generator, but few schools are going to be able to afford to put in the ground source heat pumps and the solar panels that are going to really shift that. But obviously animal agriculture makes a bigger impact than all of the transport sector combined. So by shifting your school meals in a more plant-based direction, you can make massive carbon savings. And I think in the UK, for every one meal we shift towards plant-based sort of across the UK, kind of if one person's making that shift.
Do you mean one a week? Or?
Yeah, so 1 day a week, one shift from a not plant-based to plant-based across the UK is worth 250,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide over a year. So it's really impactful. And I think schools might worry about pushing sort of vegan food to kids, but I think identifying plant-based foods as, you know, the planet-friendly option is lovely. And ProVeg UK do a brilliant guide about just sort of using nudge theory to encourage uptake of plant-based offerings. So it includes like the order that you present things. So you don't always put the meat option first. You make sure that the not meat version is up there half the time. And you make sure that you describe the veggie option is in an as attractive a way. It's, you know, it's not just veggie curry, it's Sri Lankan coconut, sweet potato, chickpea curry.
That sounds so much better.
Exactly, and you're like, okay, I'm ready, I want that one, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that all the health benefits that pupils get for that are really something that schools need to recognise as well. You know, serving, you know, a class 1 carcinogen to your pupils at lunchtime is really weird. But schools do it across the country.
Yeah. They also might find that it may be a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, a lot of products they may buy, turkey Twizzlers that they used to have, that kind of thing. They probably don't have. I don't know what they're called in America.
Yeah.
But
heavily processed
meat options are probably quite cheap. But a lot of things like legumes and that, especially if you buy them you know, raw, are very cheap. Potatoes, huge bag of potatoes, £1 or something, you know, it's just...
Exactly, and when schools are strapped for cash, this is a massive environmental action you can take that is free and cost saving. And ProVeg UK have a recipe book that can like show all those comparative cost savings and greenhouse gas emission reductions, so it's good.
It just seems like a win-win, isn't it, from all points of view?
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's been quite a success already in just 1 year with over 1,000 schools signing up. How have you had any challenges along the way so far? Has there been any hurdles to overcome?
No, is that bad? No.
No. Well, that's fine.
No negative feedback from schools. I think it's always like a mixed bag about how schools engage with it, but I think it boosts parents' confidence when they've got, you know, they know the school's got some information from another source. You know, it details the legislative requirements in this area. It encourages parents to feel comfortable asserting themselves, whereas I know I had a lot of anxiety in that first year about how I did that. And one example from my son's first year was a chick hatching project. I don't know if they run them in America, but you know, eggs are brought into schools and put in an incubator, and the chicks hatch, and all the kids go, "Oh, it's lovely." But obviously, you've taken those eggs away from their mother. They've not got a safe place to go afterwards. They're likely to be killed. And as I researched it, you find out horrible things. Apparently, mother hens nurture their chicks so well in the egg. They're not just keeping them warm, they turn them regularly. And if they're not turned, their bodies tend to stick to the shell. So when they hatch, they won't hatch properly. They'll, have deformities and need to be killed early on. It's really horrible. So anyway, raising this in my son's school and saying that it seemed an unethical thing to do in general. And in the UK, we've got the RSPCA, who campaign on animal welfare, and as vegans we often think that they don't go far enough, but they say that we should not hatch anything in schools. It's unethical. But the school reacted really negatively, and one of the deputy head teachers said that I should consider moving my son to a different school.
Wow.
And it's a really strong reaction, and I think you often have those things. The first time I went to talk to the head teacher about veganism, I sat down, and he said, well, you're not going to get me to go vegan. And you're like, hang on a moment, like I haven't come here to lobby, I've come here to talk about this context and this inclusivity for my son. So I think you've got a lot of cultural hurdles to overcome, and I hope the pack really helps give people confidence in doing that.
Well, actually, one thing that I was wondering is how do, short of just Googling something and stumbling across vegan inclusive education, how have you tried to reach any, through, I don't know, any sort of advertising on, I don't know, any platforms or anything? Or I don't know.
So not so much advertising. Personally, sort of my world is Facebook. We discussed off camera that I'm not Instagram friendly. I don't do Instagram. But on Facebook, I often, it's in the vegan parenting groups that I see the issues arise. So that's where I can flag that the campaign is there to help if anybody would like it.
Oh, okay.
But outside of sort of vegan world, the research I talked about doing about the teasing and bullying and vegan children's experiences of being vegan in school, we published that in a journal called Primary First. So it's a way of accessing primary school teachers and professionals to really learn and understand about the issues. So there's some sort of letter writing and things that help bring that up in different educational contexts. And we have education unions as well. So some parents who got involved in the campaign are hoping to do presentations to teachers' unions about the campaign to just help people know what's out there and how they can support their vegan pupils if they don't happen to have heard about the campaign.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was wondering how, there's just, I don't know what I would actually have searched for if I wouldn't have known there'd be anything out there. So yeah, it's, I guess getting the word out is quite a big part of this, because it looks like there's so much great information there to help kids and the schools.
Yeah, well, there was loads of information out there. So this is kind of like a condensing it. So it covers school meals. It covers wherever exclusion arises. So there are dissection alternatives in there and chick hatching alternatives. There are even sort of recommended reading lists to sort of make sure in your school library so that vegan pupils see themselves represented there. But it includes books that teachers wouldn't think of as vegan friendly that are already in their libraries. So there's the BFG, obviously kind of talks about the eating of humans and how traumatic that is, and even contrasts it with you would feel unhappy if you were the pig being eaten. Like there's some really strong counter messages there. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's Watership Down. It's all the kind of elucidating of empathy for the animal world.
Right. Okay. I seem to remember in BFG they snozcumber or something like that instead.
Yes. Unfortunately, the snozcumber is not a vegan delicious food.
Well, okay. So I guess going from here, will you plan to update the brochure as time goes on, or how do you plan to expand what you're doing anyway, or is it just?
We're already on version 2 of the brochure, so yeah, it's definitely live. We keep the website live and up to date, so if you go there you'll find a welcome page, a pupils page, which is where you can register on the map, and on the schools page you can find all the resources that so many different organisations have designed, but it brings them together, so it's by age range and by subject matter, so it's a really easy way for teachers to just go, okay, right, I've got to do a cooking class for 12-year-olds. This is what I need.
So obviously, as you know, Hogs and Kisses is based in America, and as far as I'm aware, there isn't an equivalent of vegan inclusive education in America. So what advice would you have, or for someone who wanted to maybe start something similar in the States?
Oh, well, I would say reach out to other vegan parents. I had a lot of interest when I was setting this up, so I know they're out there, and I can probably hook you up with some people that I came across. Okay. I think I can give you access to all of the resources, so you can do it really simply. You can change the references to update, the legal bit, but you're welcome to anything and everything. and it's actually a really satisfying bit of activism. It's, it's low maintenance now. I just I'm just posting. It's easy.
Just posting, yeah. So
and
is that coming out of your pocket, or is there?
No, I fund it. It's a passion project.
Wow.
So I'm so delighted to do it.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's I think it's really powerful and empowering for both parents and pupils. So if you're thinking about it, go for it.
Get in contact with Ruth and she'll sort you out. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. This is just fantastic what you're doing.
Oh,
and,
thank you. Thank you for having me on, and so much love to all the Hogs and Kisses team. I'm sad I can't be hugging with the hogs right now.
One day you'll have to visit. Yeah. But thank you very much.
Thank you,
Cheers.
James.
Thanks.
Gosh, how inspiring those conversations were. Scott and Ruth doing such amazing work. And then also, too, the insights from Elsa and how they decided to approach raising their children, right?
Yeah, so powerful, so
It is.
valuable. And now it's your turn. Anne.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, because you know what? My situation is not representative of most, unfortunately.
Right.
But yours, I think, is. So can you talk a little bit about your family dynamic to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so, I went plant-based or eating plant-based over a decade ago and then slowly transitioned, of course, to a vegan lifestyle. At the time when I had met my now husband, I was still eating pescatarian, so fish and vegetarian pescatarian. And then I kind of had this evolution, right, of then going vegan or plant-based, right, then vegan lifestyle. And it was, kind of over time. It was not an overnight thing for me. So my husband is not fully plant-based or vegan. I would say, he does a really good job of it, meaning maybe 75-80% of what he eats is plant-based. And he enjoys it and he knows. He's watched all the documentaries with me. He knows all the information, right, that I know. And then he has a son who is my stepson. His mother is a vegetarian and has been for 20 some odd years, but not vegan. And then she married also a new man. And anyway, he is local here to Charlottesville, but very typical culture here in Charlottesville is a lot of people still hunt, they raise their own animals and so forth. So my stepson is not vegan either, and he likes to fish and bond with the guys in doing that. So it is a bit tough because, with us, of course, he eats fully plant-based when he's with us. So I would say he's probably about 50% plant-based. And he understands. He does really love animals, but hasn't yet connected all of it because he has so many different influences, I think. And then on top of that, my parents have just now moved in, who are 80 years old. And for the most part, they're pretty open to eating plant-based and have tried to stock their refrigerator that way. But of course, they have not agreed or adopted fully a vegan lifestyle. But I think for the most part, they do want to eat plant-based. So that's kind of just the logistics at the moment of my household.
Yes, and you mentioned evolution, and I'm sure not only you have had an evolution, but your whole family, and now you've moved into this new house. Maybe we can talk about kind of the fresh start you had when you moved here and how that's working.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so because there were so many, everybody in my life is all on different places about eating plant-based. It was not something I ever believe in, say, trying to force or guilt somebody into doing it. I want to provide information and hope that they also will choose like me. But I think that if somebody does it for someone else, it doesn't stick per se. So when we decided to build our house here and start a sanctuary, I had to have a lot of conversations, especially with my husband, my stepson, everyone, that, listen, here in my house, it's going to be, right, vegan, plant-based, the whole thing. So we had to have that talk, and that was like a big kind of me putting now a line in this, oh, good God almighty. Rubia.
So you talked about your own evolution, and I'm sure your family has gone through an evolution along with you. now that you've moved into this new home, started this sanctuary, can you tell us about kind of what you decided to do and how you worked that out with your family?
Right, yeah. So I don't believe in, say, force or guilting somebody, right, to adopt this lifestyle. I just don't think it works well. A lot of resentment can be built that way. So I try my best to educate without coming across too preachy, which is really tough. And so I kind of took that angle. However, when we decided that we were going to be moving here, right, so we've now bought land, built our house, and now built this sanctuary, I had to have a lot of really tough conversations with everybody that we are creating something different here, which is saving animals. This is what I'm dedicated to. This is what my life is now, right, fully about in every way. And so first and foremost, of course, I had to have that conversation with my husband to make sure he was supportive and on board of that. And of course he was and is great. But then also with my stepson, right? Not be kind of sharing households, but not being vegan, doesn't want to be, right? All this kind of thing. We had to have a talk about that listen, there's going to be no meat in this house. Like, this is a sanctuary and this is, a commitment now, a new chapter, a new thing, right? So yeah, there had to be a lot of those conversations and everybody being okay with that, because even now with my parents move in, or even say my in-laws, and they want to cook dishes that are of their culture, right, and bring it here. I mean, even right just today, my mom's friends came and they don't comprehend or even understand what vegan is. They're like, what is that, vegetarian? Like, they do, so it's really tough because it is constantly trying to educate, and it's my own house, so it's a lot of me reminding myself to be compassionate and patient with other people if I want people to really be drawn to this way of life or this kind of belief and approach.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important, what you said about not being able to force somebody, but setting some boundaries, right? What about when you travel, for example, and when you're out, when you're not in control of the environment you're in?
Exactly, right. Yeah. So this one, I think, probably poses the most ups and downs for me in my family dynamic, because the agreement was that, here at the house, it is 100% a vegan plant-based house, right? However, when they're out, they order what they want. And there are some times where I can be compassionate and not be upset about it. And then there are times where I see the meat on the table and it literally, sometimes I feel silly, but literally it makes me want to cry. Like, I don't want to look at a plate of bacon when I have these amazing, beautiful beings in my care. So, for the most part, they do try and be compassionate back, my family, right, towards me. But there are times where if we are traveling or if we're limited or whatever, or they forget, and even though they're around me, it happens. And I don't believe they are doing it with malintent or, anything like that. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is that compassion has to go both ways, right? It's tough.
Yeah, and I think we talk about this a lot, Anne, about the emotions behind that, and is it anger, is it sadness, and how do you portray how you're feeling to someone who might just not quite get it still, even though they know you so well? That must be really, really hard.
It is, yeah. So I know for some people they feel in that moment or think of what that animal went through. For me, I think that is not necessarily a focus at that moment when I see meat on the table. I actually get overwhelmed with feeling hopeless because these people are in my life and they know what I know and they see what I've seen. They've read what I've read, watched what I've read, but yet it's not important to them in the way that it's important to me. So it becomes like, oh my God, even the people in my life, it's not important to, right? Like it's no longer there's a bunch of people out in life, right? It's literally my people who I love, So it's more for me an emotional roller coaster of like a hopelessness, like, oh God, it may never be important to them the way it is to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So for these holidays coming
Oh,
up,
yes.
maybe just talk about how you're going to handle this and, give some golden nuggets to the
Yeah.
people out there yeah.
Sure, absolutely. In years past, I would always just cook my own food and bring it. Always, always. Now, are there family members who absolutely said, "Hey, I set some stuff aside and made sure there wasn't any butter, egg, meat, in it," and it's so nice, and I always thank them a million, right? But then I would supplement by bringing my own stuff. This year in particular, and maybe because of COVID travel and maybe because my parents just moved in, we're actually kind of splitting up a little bit. So it's just going to be me and my parents here. So for sure, of course, I'm having a vegan we're calling it a Thanksgiving, okay? So that part for me is actually, I feel a little bit like I can just relax and take a breath of fresh air and just relax with my parents and cook and have a good time. So that's how I'm handling it this year. But in previous years, it was always that I'm bringing my own. However, I'd have to look at a freaking turkey or Christmas time, a ham, or whatever everybody does, And a lot of times I just can't look at it. My husband's culture is Cuban, and at Christmas time, it's traditional to roast a pig, and they literally splay it and they roast it, And so, over the years, at times it was like, okay, yeah, I can't go and watch. Like it's an all-day event that people sit around a spitfire kind of thing, and I just can't do it. So. There were times I just had to make decisions where it was like, again, no offense, because definitely in various cultures, if you refuse food, it is an absolute, offense to them, and sometimes I just have to explain it's just not my belief, So that's how I've been handling it, and then now this year.
I'm so excited that you get to have a little bit of peace this Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And for everybody out there, I think it's about setting your own boundaries and being okay with not being okay if that's where you're at, and really respecting yourself along with being as compassionate as you can to everybody else.
I'd really love to hear from you all, maybe in the notes in the comments or show notes comments. Just put what it is you do, right? Or if there is something you struggle with and you're looking for some advice, put those questions in the comments, because look, I've been doing this for a while. Ella's been doing it for a very long while, right? So we've gone through many a situation, and it's just not as clean cut as we hope it could be, right? I would love it to be that everybody ate the same way we do and see things the same way we see, or that understand that when we see meat on the table, it's actually a traumatic experience, because you feel so deeply and really love these animals, right? Or believe so strongly in your way that it's really tough. So I think mainly we want to make sure that you all know you're not alone, and that we know it's not, it's such an easy situation. It is complex in many ways. So.
Yes, well, join our community and comment below, and we hope this was helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for beating around the barn with us.